Core values is hands down the most important thing you can have in your business. It's been said many times that culture eats strategy for lunch in a business. What does that mean? It's who we are, and how we show up will be any strategy that you put, and making sure we have the right people in the organization. So here are some truths on the years that I've worked with companies when it comes down to core values. So when I sit down with companies, here's a funny story. Most times I walk into a business and they have core values on the wall, and people have it all over their organization. And I'll ask somebody as we walk by a sign on the wall, or walk up to somebody sitting at the front desk, and I go, "Oh, I see you have core values. What are they?" And they'll turn around and look, because they actually don't know what the core values are. They don't have them memorized. It's not something that they live and breathe. So the one bit of advice, the one thing is the core values have to become a part of an organization. They're not just something that's written down. And here are some of the truths of either teams I've worked with, teams that I've come in and they've changed their core values. I'll give you some of these little nuggets so you don't hit these roadblocks, all right? So number one, if you're going to ChatGPT to understand core values, that's a good start. But you have to understand from your standpoint of who and what you are, what you believe, what are your non-negotiables. This is not about going to ChatGPT or going to some Fortune 500 company and seeing what their values are and replicating them. They are not you. You are not them, right? It has to be something in your soul as the owner, as the leader of this organization, that you're going to hire people based off of this. You're going to fire. Listen to that. Fire people based off of the values. If they don't hold these values, they no longer have a place in your organization. You're going to review. So when you're reviewing them on a quarterly basis, on an annual basis, you're reviewing not just how they're doing in their job or in their seat, you're reviewing them as a human being and how they're showing up based on the values. And you're going to promote people on this. Do you hear that last one? Promote. We're not just promoting people because they're doing a stellar job in their seat, meaning they're doing their job really well. We also promote people if they're a stellar person. And that's how you build a great culture. People wonder all the time how some of these organizations build such a great culture is because the core values are so important to them. So here's some other things. Don't steal, right? Don't make sure it just doesn't sound good. It's got to feel good. It's got to be like, I would fire my brother if they didn't fit these core values. The next is when you start talking about the core values, you got to define them. Each value, each word has to be defined. So if you have integrity as one of your values in your organization, and there's millions of companies that have integrity as one of their values. Hey, and if it's really an integrity for you, that's perfectly fine. But you got to define what integrity means to you. Not Webster's dictionary, not what ChatGPT says is cute. You have to be able to define what integrity means to you. The next thing, to explain this to people, you've got the word, you've got the definition, and you've got to give people stories. So you got to give a story of what integrity means and where somebody in the organization is shown integrity. And this is a great way to give what I call a core value shout out to people. So Susie did X, Y, and Z and showed the utmost integrity in the way she dealt with that client. So that's a great story about a value. You also need to share a anti-value. Steve, well, you wouldn't say this in front of anybody. Anytime you ever criticize, you do it in private. So you would never do anything like this in public. But ultimately, when you're telling a story, so you also have to tell an anti-value story. So you told that story that replicates of what you want them to, how you want them to use the value. You also have to tell a story maybe when you, the leader, did not actually live that value. And what that does is it shows them what the opposite of what the value means. And it's always good to use yourself as an example in using that anti-value story so ultimately it clicks for them. And that's how you're not supposed to act. So you're using yourself as an example because nobody's perfect and nobody's going to live these values all the time. So number one, don't be cute with your values. They don't have to be perfect like a Fortune 500 company, or going to ChatGPT and sound perfect. They have to be from inside. They got to be from your heart, your soul, and they've got to mean something. You've got to be able to hire, fire, review, and promote based off of them. You've got to be able to define what the values mean. And then you've got to tell stories, 2 stories. A value story, what you want it to look like, and an anti-value story, and use a circumstance where you didn't follow that value to give an example of what it is. And then you've got to consistently talk about the values. Every meeting, every week, every quarter, every time you're with a client, every time you're with a vendor, talk about a value that you believe in. If you're on a commercial, talk about it. If you're on a podcast, talk about your values, because they mean so much. Your values are just as important to you as your product is. So sell your values, because that's truly who you are.